Well, thanks for the introduction. That was great. You know, I got this morning too, and my wife, you know, she's a funny person. She got up this morning and said, Byron, whatever you do, don't try to be too funny or witty or intelligent. Just be yourself. That was a great way to start the day, so it was cute. I want to thank everybody for letting me come up here and share my story, actually. I have a great journey, I think, and I didn't think myself as an actual seasoned entrepreneur, more of an up-and-coming. So I was actually quite shocked when they came and saw me and asked me to be a part of this. So I was really lucky at a young age, actually, to really know what I want and to be an entrepreneur at a young age. And like he said, I was lucky enough to start really young. My parents had us working us. There's 4 boys in my family, and we all worked in the store young. We were stacking beer bottles and bottle rooms and cleaning floors and working for squirt guns and bicycles. And they taught us to be just to be good people in the community. And we talked about entrepreneurs and what really is an entrepreneur. And it's somebody that has a beat of a different drum in their heart. It's somebody that sees opportunities and goes and creates. I was always looking for quotes for an entrepreneur, and I was looking for it, and I found a good one here. Living a few years like most people won't, so you can spend the rest of your life like most people can't. That was a great opportunity to look at that one, and I thought that's just a true spirit of what I'm trying to become. We're going to talk about my journey and how I lost my parents $145,000 the first year I was in retail, and that's a true story. We'll start with when I was at my dad and mom's house, and we started with this huge shrub, and he started having me hack the shrub. And he kept saying, make sure it's round, make sure it's round. And I kept going. And he taught me, kept going round. When I was done, the shrub was this big. My dad came around the corner and said, Byron, good, better, best, never let it rest. The good is better and the better's best. And it was like some mumble jumble. I didn't understand. I kind of laughed. And I said, all right. So a couple weeks later, I said, just tell me that one more time, Dad. And he said it again, good, better, best, never let it rest until the good is better and the better's best. And it really hit home. And I think he brainwashed me. That was his whole intent, actually. Because for years out, I could be walking across the parking lot and seeing a piece of paper and being tired, don't want to walk over there. And I'll turn around and go, darn it, Dad, and I'll walk over there and pick up that piece of paper. So I was fortunate, too, at a young age that they gave me opportunity. They trusted us when we were really young. I was about 14 years old when I started working in the hardware full-time. I was at home, and a gentleman called my mom and said, I need some plumbing parts. And the store was closed. They called the grocery store we own in Glenny, and they said, can we get some up there? And my mom said, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll get Byron. So I jumped in the car, and I went up there, and I was on crutches. I broke my foot. I was playing soccer, and I broke my foot. So he went inside the store, and I fixed him right up. It was like an easy fixing a puzzle. I really enjoyed it. I was real passionate. It was really easy to do. So he left. About a year later, he comes back to the store, and he goes, I want to thank you. I didn't know who he was. I said, who are you? And he goes, you were in your crutches. It was raining. You helped me fix a plumbing project. And he goes, I was so impressed you came uptown and opened the store for me. He goes, I teach Dale Carnegie classes. And he goes, I use your stories as inspiration about to go above and beyond and how to run your retail business, especially in a northern Michigan climate. So. Also, it's a cute little story, was when I was about 15 years old, my dad entrusted us boys at a young age too. They wanted a trip to Hawaii, actually. They're heading off, and about before they left, they said, before I go, I want you to bring the Ace Hardware tool set to 80% compliant. And I looked at my brother and said, okay. I thought he was paying attention, and he thought I was paying attention. Of course, they're in Hawaii now. They're all gone now. And the next thing I know, next day we go to order, and he goes, what did he say? I said, I thought you were paying attention. So we went through, and I looked at the store, and this was single aisle and Glenny tools. I'm like, well, I guess we'll order 80% of the tools, I guess. So we filled the store up 80%. Truck gets there on Wednesday. I said, Merrill, how big is the truck? He goes, it's yours. I said, we never get full trucks. We get half a trucks, quarter trucks. He goes, it's all yours. So we unload the truck. We end up buying $30,000 of tools in Glenny, Michigan. My dad and mom come back from Hawaii, and we're still unloading the truck. And he said, what do you want me to do, Dad? And he goes, well, you already did it. We're gonna keep it. And he goes, I trusted you. We're gonna make it work. So every 2 weeks we got a billing out there, and every 2 weeks I know I should be at my girlfriend's house because my dad and dad couldn't pay the bills in the middle of winter, and I was gonna be out of town when that bill came due. So. Also, I knew when I was young I wanted to be something, a developer, or to build into a community. I was sitting in a school store, and I was in Oscoda, and I was looking at the ugly school store. It was panel, it made no sense, it had no adjacencies, the little Debbie's were next to the pencils, it just didn't make any sense at all. So I went home and I started sketching on a piece of paper to redraw the school store. So I went up to Mom and Dad and I said, I want to get some glass shelves from our gift shop and some slot wall and redo the whole school store. So I went to the school store and I pitched it to this teacher and they loved it. So I pitched it in front of the classroom, they loved it. So that next Monday we start ripping out the school store, and next thing I know, I'm looking over and I was surprised how like the kids of my age didn't know how to use a hammer, open up a can of paint. And at that time I was so fortunate to know that my parents taught me at a young age, give me a huge responsibility to throw away $30,000 for a little while of their money and give me the opportunity to grow with them. After high school, I went to college at SDSU for 2 years. It's more of an extension of my adolescence, actually. So people ask where I went to school. I said, it really is a different college every weekend. So I didn't get a degree there. My parents pushed me to make sure I really what I wanted to do. And I knew when I was young, when I was in the hardware, my dad spoke of a chain of Ace Hardwares, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. And the only thing I got out of college is my wife. I have a great wife, and we're real fortunate for that one. So. While I was in college, we were building the Lewiston store, and I was home every single weekend. I wanted to work down in school in Saginaw. Dad, I was really good at what I did. He goes, why don't you come up and help, and we'll get this thing rolling faster. So we built this beautiful store in Lewiston. It's gorgeous. It's a 16,500 square foot Ace Hardware. It's a big hardware store. At the time, Ace was pushing us to have a different criteria. If you followed their criteria, they'd give you $215,000 of free inventory money. So we were following the criteria, we got it all going, we poured the concrete, buildings going up. The city came to us and said, you have to put a bigger sprinkler system in because it wouldn't meet code. So we were already over budget at the time, so we put the bigger sprinkler in and we're ready to go hook it up to the road, and they said, where is the water out to the road? And they said, you have to go to it. It was a quarter mile. So they came up to us and said, it's gonna be another $150,000 to hook up the sprinkler system. We said, well, there has to be a better way. So we ended up putting a $50,000 well in to make it suffice for the time. So we did the projections, we built Lewiston, we opened up, and it was like whammo. The projections weren't there. We have 3 successful little stores in Glenny, Michigan. We built this great big store, and it wasn't there. And we didn't know what to do. It was actually the verge of bankruptcy. We losing the house, my parents' house. And I was in control of it. My dad, when I was in the hardware in Glenny, he saw how great I was doing at it, and he said, I'm gonna give you the opportunity because I can believe in you. So at that time, I thought I was a failure. I didn't know what I was doing wrong. So Mom would walk in the door and she'd just start crying. She said, don't order anything. My dad would walk in and go, why is the store empty? So it was a really hard time. So we called Ace up about a year after being open. And I lost about $140,000. And called Ace Corporate up and said, we followed your criteria. What are we doing wrong? They walked our competitor, they walked our store, and they said, everything looks great. They said, well, what are you gonna do? My dad and we looked at each other, and he poked up and said, failure is not an option. We're not gonna fail. We're gonna make somehow some work. What do you have? And they said, actually, you have sporting goods in a gift shop in your store. We're thinking maybe you should put beer in your store. A beer in a hardware store, we went separate ways. So now we own a grocery store with beer and Ace Hardware, so I guess we probably should have listened to them. So we pulled up the profit and loss statement, and I said, I don't know what we're going to do. I'm going to cut. We made sure our payroll was aligned. I cut advertising. I learned to ship and wax my own floors. I paint my own stripes in my parking lot. I cut the electrical as much as I can, put timers in, thermostats in the natural gas. And we just did everything we could possibly do to make sure we didn't fail. People in town thought we were going to fail. That was actually a common question. Are you going to close? So I had my employees park in front. I ordered cheap merchandise. I bulk stacked it out there. You walked in, and I stayed positive at all times. I just knew no matter what I was going to do, that was going to work. And it did. And it worked real well. The bank wouldn't refinance with us. So I was reading, at the time hey, welcome to the show. I started reading Donald Trump books because I heard that he had one of the largest bankruptcies, or close to, and I want to find out what he did. And he contacted every single banker in his organization and sat down. So we did the same thing. I went to the president. I got 2 banks that was going to refinance me if our local one didn't, and they actually ended up doing it. And one of the greatest things that happened to that store and as part of this year is being involved in your community. I got out there and I said, I want to be out there and let people know that I'm not just some huge corporation, this big Ace Hardware in front of this small town. I met great people. It was one of the best things I ever did. And I met some great friends in the sales, to be honest, they just climbed. People liked the store, they understood who we were. And then I got involved in Timberfest, which is a festival in our town. And I became a chamber member, and they were gonna get rid of it. This kind of goes the 80-20 rule, and you guys can understand this. 80% of the work is done by 20% of the people. So I said, I'm going to reinvent this. You guys run the chamber. I'm going to take Timberfest and make it something. It was a good little festival. It's doing like $10,000, $12,000 for a small town for the weekend. We put in a beer tent. Ordered searchlights to make it really a big, huge party. It was just awesome. We brought in inflatables for the kids, and that year we cleared over $12,000. And now we're close to we're generating about a $40,000 revenue out of that little festival. So it's just working out really good. At that time, I knew I wanted to do some more on my end of it, on more entrepreneurship. I was with my family for so long, and I wanted to do something of my own. So I started looking at some commercial real estate. And I picked up a book by Robert Kiyosaki. I'm not sure if you've heard of Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it did change my life forever. Robert Kiyosaki doesn't tell you A and B equals C. It tells you get out there and go educate yourself. Never stop learning. Have a positive attitude. Don't take no for an answer. So I started playing the game. I filled out my first financial statement, and I hated it. It didn't look good. It wasn't bad. So I started telling everybody my goals, my dreams, and I kept doing reading. I read probably 50 books, online researching. I wanted to understand banks. I wanted to understand how they worked. If I was going to get loans, I needed all the different ratios. And then by me telling people what I wanted to do, I found a deal over here in Tawa City, actually. And people heard what I was doing. It was a backdoor bank deal. And they came to me and asked if I wanted to possibly purchase it. I love the idea of it. So I put together my business plan. I got all my information, all my ratios. I handed the guy. The banker was just so impressed. He said, I've been doing this for 25 years. No one has ever been that prepared, handing me a bank financial statement and making this project work. And then I sat down with my Robert Kiyosaki book, opened up, and because of that project, I gained $280,000 in net worth in less than a couple weeks. So I knew at that time it was working. It taught me to find private investors to believe in what I was doing. And at that time, I loved the game. It was going well. So I had a purchase agreement on a building in Cadillac, and I was going to buy a strip mall. My dad called me about the Oscoda project. He said, don't do that. Why don't we do this together? I can't do it alone, and let's do it together. It was a former Carter's grocery store that was closed for about 7 years, and it was deteriorating. It was a really ugly building in Oscoda. So I said, we can pull it off. That's something I want to do. So he said, if you want to be 50-50 partners, you got to come up with 150 grand. I'm starting off in life, I don't have 150 grand. So I went back to my book, started reading. I said, you know what? I had all that equity in those apartments. So I went to my apartment banker and I said, I want to refi for 150. He goes, no problem. Gave me more or less a letter of intent. I was good to go. 7 days before I was supposed to give the bank the money, my banker calls and said, well, I can't give you the money. You've only owned it for 11 months. You have to own it for 13 months according to our laws. So I was sitting there on my porch going, now what? Now what am I going to do? So I went back to my education. I said, I'm going to write down 10 names. I'm going to call everybody, tell them, pitch my story. I told my wife, I don't know how I was going to do it. And I said, well, I was going to keep calling. Called the first one. I said, I want to do this opportunity with my father. It's a great business opportunity. It's great for us. And he goes, come see me in a half an hour. He wrote me a $150,000 personal check. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching this guy give me this check, and trust me with this money. And I said, why are you doing this? Can I ask? And I said, and he goes, I watched you in Lewiston when everybody thought it was going to close, make it happen. I saw you take over Timberfest that was going to close and make it happen. He goes, you're a safe bet. Make it work. Thank you, yeah. So we leased a portion of the building to Goodwill, which is another asset to the Oscoda area, and we put it in our new store. And it's too big for an Ace Hardware, and it was almost too big for we thought for the grocery store. And I went to my dad that night and I said, hey, I think we should do a combination store. And he was doing this for 41 years. He's not tired, but he said, this groceries business is tough. You don't want to be a part of this. And I said, yeah, I do. He called me tons of names that name. It's a family thing. Next day he calls me and says, I think it's a great idea. So we ended up putting the grocery store we opened about a year ago in Oscoda, and the store is doing really well. It's opposite of Lewiston. Projections are great and things are easier. So one thing I can say was hard work does pay off. The harder we seem to work, the luckier I get. This is where I want to try to encourage and motivate a little bit. Has anybody ever heard of Earl Nightingale? Okay, good. Earl Nightingale came up with the strangest secret in the world. I repeat it again, the strangest secret he came up with. I'm going to plagiarize a little bit. We live in a golden age. We live in America. And it's just a land of fortune. If you don't think so, jump on a plane, go out, take a cheap cruise, and go see what's around there. Your Wally's needs kind of go away after you come back to seeing those kind of places. In his speech, he talks about how 65 people at the age of 25 thought they were going to be rich. At age 65, 1 was rich, 4 was financially independent, 10 were still working, and 50 were broke. What happened to that sparkle and that dream that was inside of them that said they could actually do it? And what happened what they intended to do and what they actually did? And what happens to Americans why at age 18 we can start a family, at 25 we can make things happen, but at the age of 65 we're broke? And I think it comes down to the people conform. It's easier to take the low road. And if you're out there trying to do something, it doesn't matter if you're on an entrepreneur journey or trying to buy a house. I give it the 90, I love this terminology, 90-year-old rocking test. Imagine yourself 90 years old, sitting on a porch, rocking, thinking, should I or should I not do this? And most of the time you'll more regret you didn't take the opportunity than if you would have lost. So take that test. I'm a goal guy. I write down all my lists of pros and cons. When I did my apartments, pros and cons, Oscoda, pros and cons, my Cadillac building. Even when I got married, I wrote down my pros and cons of marrying my wife.
Lots of pros.
That's how it goes. She asked, how many cons were there? There wasn't any, honey. There wasn't one. Life should be an adventure. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. I made tons on Lewiston. I'm thankful now, looking back, 10 years later, that I had those mistakes, because I wouldn't have learned anything. I wouldn't have been a good retailer. I wouldn't be out there. And you only really learn when you lose. There's only a couple things I did learn about my mom and dad. They probably should have fired me years ago. And a successful person is really a person that deliberately doing a predetermined job because that's what they intended to do. It's kind of like the story of the chicken or the egg. What came first, the chicken or the egg or the chicken? It's like success. People talk about, is that person successful because they have money, or that because they had a journey to success they have money? Forget the money. Follow the vision. The money will come if that's what you're doing it for. But entrepreneurship's more than just money. It's the pride of building and developing. I think the biggest thing too is I have huge goals, and I always have. I have goals. We're going to do 10 more. My goal is to have 10 stores. I want 100 more apartment units. I'm 30 years old. I'm going to hit it because that's my positive attitude is going to get me there. And you just have to have goals. Think of a ship leaving a harbor. Put a crew in it, fill it full of gas, put a GPS in it, start the engines, and let's go. 99.99% chance it's going to get the exact where it's going. On the other side, put that same ship in the harbor, don't fill it full of gas, start the engines, it most likely won't get where you're going. It's anything in life is like that. Earl Nightingale's secret is just one saying, and I heard it was on a cassette player. I'm a young guy and I still had cassettes. We become what we think about. I'll say it again. We become what we think about. If you think in negative results, you're going to get negative results. On the other hand, if you think of positive, you're going to get positive results. Picture yourself as already being a success and keep working towards that. I always thought myself as a guy when I was young in a red Ferrari. At the time, I had 2 blondes next to me. Now it's a car seat and a baby, but I'll still take it. So, the biggest thing my dad always says: life's a test of problems. Identify your problem. Don't dwell on your solution. Don't dwell on the problem. Work on your solution. It's a series of tests from God, and it's how you handle it. And if you're going to think and you're going to think big, you might as well think real big. So I'm going to challenge everybody to go out there, make your mistakes, follow your dreams, write down your goals, and live life like an adventure. Thanks for letting me listen. I didn't screw up too bad.
Well, for